Ducati's Multistrada is a wolf in sheep's clothing, packing the performance of a sports bike into the comfortable clothes of a tourer. Debuting in 2010, the third generation is now upon us, and at first glance, not much seems to have changed. But looks can be deceiving, and Ducati has actually packed a fair few changes into the 2018 Multistrada, starting with the ex-Diavel's 1262cc Testa-Stretta DVT powertrain. That's right, this is a new Multistrada 1260, and with this engine upgrade comes a new degree of rideability. Due to enter dealerships from next month, it will be available in 4 spec levels of the 1260, 1260S, 1260SD and the sporty range shopping 1260 Pikes Peak. All models will benefit from a host of new tech, including Ducati's quick shifter, keyless ignition and revised TFT dash. Boasting a longer stroke than the previous unit, new engine mapping and a fruity twin alu exhaust, this 158 horsepower powertrain, that's 6 horsepower more than the Multistrada 1200, is really well suited to the new Multi. Known for its rideability, it provides linear power from around 2000 revs and plentiful torque, which is available much lower down the revs than the previous unit. There's a claimed 85% available from 3500 RPM, which is most definitely noticeable. Ducati promises also an 18% torque hike over the 1200 at 5500 revs, with a peak of 95.1 pound per foot achieved at 7500. These factors combine to make the bike much more usable than its predecessor, especially in the low to mid-range, which is where you find yourself often in towns or traffic. Torque builds more steadily than the previous unit, making for more pleasant acceleration throughout the gears. But this increased low-end torque doesn't mean a compromise on top-end tug. The Multistrada retains its lofty power, aggressive acceleration and high-speed thrills. The 4 riding modes of Sport, Touring, Urban and Enduro have their own mapping different degrees of engine braking. Touring is noticeably less ardent than Sport and Urban even more so, but our ride didn't actually call for Enduro. Shifting's been made a lot easier thanks to Ducati's quick shift system, which is derived from the marque's superbikes. Providing you're at the right revs, it makes for relatively smooth shifting. However, it's no soft touch and does require a decent toe tap to change. On a number of occasions I found myself in no man's land hitting false neutrals between gears, after too gentle a movement. Equally, this quick shifter makes finding neutral slightly more difficult, and during the test I'd often find myself jumping between first and second a number of times before getting there. The old Multistrada was pretty competent when it came to handling, although top-end wobble was apparently an issue, especially under load. Ducati claims to have improved this high-speed stability thanks to a 48mm longer swing arm, 5mm longer trail and 1 degree increased rake, which makes for a chassis 56mm longer than the outgoing model. Our test route didn't really give us much opportunity to put this high-speed stability to the test, but the bike does feel steady and balanced at motorway speeds. However, these changes don't compromise Multistrada's agility. It's very manoeuvrable both at speed and at a standstill and has an impressive turning circle. There are 3 seat heights to choose from, standard in the lower setting and the low seat option which takes it to 805mm. But this really isn't a bike for shorter riders, and at 5'7" on the low option I was still far off putting my feet flat on the floor. With wide bars and upright riding position, the Multistrada is comfortable, but with the lower seat fitted my arms ached a bit and the ergonomics felt slightly off. In bends I found myself leaning into the wide bars. The Multistrada may not be a sports bike, but you sure can ride it like one. The 1260S gets Ducati's semi-active skyhook suspension, with a 48mm electronic Sax Evo fork and electronic Sax DSS Evo shock, which proves firm and sporty, yet not bone shaking over bumps. Personally I set it to Rider Plus panniers to increase the preload, but there's plenty of options to choose from. The suspension dampening automatically stiffens or softens depending on a number of factors including mode, speed and lean angle. With so many levels of suspension adjustment, there really is something to suit every terrain and riding style. The standard 1260 and Pikes Peak versions share mechanically adjustable Öhlins suspension, the latter for weight-saving purposes and the former for cost reasons. Brembo brakes feature across the Multistrada range in the form of M Ford 32 radial monoblock calipers with 320mm discs on the standard model and Sharp M50 radial monoblock calipers with 330 discs in the S, SD-Air and Pikes Peak. There's also cornering ABS, traction control, wheelie control and vehicle hold control, all of which are for the most part intuitive and unobtrusive. Annoyingly though, the vehicle hold control actually only stays on for 10 seconds before deactivating and letting the bike roll backwards, and considering most traffic lights stay red for more than 10 seconds, this isn't ideal. So to the untrained eye, the new Multistrada differs very little from its predecessor. However, there's a couple of subtle changes that really set the two apart. There's a metal tested Stretta DVT panel on the cam covers, a new grab rail which is inherited from the Multistrada Enduro, and if you're really hot on your details, you'll see that there's redesigned cheek panels. In the cockpit there's a few more changes, an updated TFT dash which is standard on the £17,395 S model and up. On this dash, and using the more intuitive handlebar buttons, the rider can switch between the riding modes, preload settings, and delve into more complicated suspension adjustments. And while it looks no different, the 1260 is packed with additional kit over the previous model. There's a new tyre pressure monitoring system and keyless ignition across the range, one neat aspect of which is the recovery unlock system, which in the event of lost keys allows the rider to enter a 4-digit code to start the bike. An LED headlight with cornering lights is also standard on the SD Air and Pikes Peak. And if you feel like you haven't spent enough already, there's always the options of 4 accessory packages, which can be chopped and changed as the rider chooses. For the Multistrada's price, you'd think that Ducati would make the screen adjustment electronic. The Triumph Tiger's had one since 2012 after all. That said, there's nothing wrong with the manual unit. Nothing says aggressive more than Volcano Grey paintwork, which is easily my favourite of all the Multistrada colours. The quick shift could do with some refinement, however, to avoid false neutrals, and the bike could be made a little more accessible for smaller riders. The Multistrada occupies a strange spot in motorcycling, the sport adventure segment. It's pretty much a 3-bike segment, with the Multistrada 1260 sharing stage with BMW's £12,650 SX1000 XR and the £15,999 KTM 1290 Super Duke GT. So if you're torn between a sports bike and an adventure bike, one of these three will definitely be your perfect compromise. And in my opinion, the Multistrada is easily the most stylish option, offering a performance-orientated ride in high comfort and with a vast array of tech. However, there is that admittedly eye-watering price.